These are the most disgusting Genshin players I've ever seen. My name's Kazahana, and in this video I'm going to be talking about the drama surrounding Scaramouche and a portion of the Chinese Genshin community. This was a massive topic a few months ago, and I'll be giving you all the facts you need to know and any new information that's come out since this happened. I want to preface that if you aren't fond of sensitive topics, especially involving innocent beings including animals, then this video may not be for you. And I will not be glossing over any of these facts, as these are vital to the whole story of the drama and conveys just how horrible these people are. And I'd also like to thank user RyanChill on Reddit for their post detailing the whole situation, and also thank you to anybody else who's added even more information to this whole situation. And I know in this video I'll be talking about the Chinese Genshin community, but I'm not referring to all of them, just a small group. So let's start where it all began. Firstly, we need to know that there are two main groups that pop up quite a lot, being the Scaramouche Stans and the Xiao Stans, which both of the groups had some very extreme players who became almost delusional due to their favoritism of these characters. And I'm not just talking about them defending them in every thread to exist, we're talking about more, and that in the Chinese community they can be rather aggressive and chaotic. Before Scaramouche's release, there were some leaks online about Scar's voice lines, which included comments about Yaimiko, Child, and some others, and this sparked a conversation between some of the character mains who chatted about the leaks on Douban, a Chinese social media site. The general consensus was that they hoped that Hoyoverse would eventually change his voice lines, because they didn't like their characters being insulted by him, which is a little bit stupid, especially seeing as they aren't real people, and the fact that this is also just the personality of Scaramouche. Then enter the Scaramouche Stans. These weren't just normal Scaramouche Stans though, as most of them are like I mentioned before, unreasonable, chaotic, and aggressive, and nothing like what you consider a normal Scaramouche Stan. This group of people first started being pretty tame, saying things like that's just how he is, and if they didn't like it they should just shut up, to kind of insult the other mains in the thread, with them even using pictures and videos to make memes to taunt the other character mains, just to essentially insult them. During this time there was also a little battle going on between Scaramouche and Xiao Stans, and the whole argument was over which character should use Farazar, which is a pretty stupid thing to be arguing about if you ask me. The two groups of stands argued about the kit, the character lore, personality, and more, and this just kept escalating, with them hurling insults at one another, and then eventually it got worse, with them both deciding to pull a sniper wolf and start doxing and cyberbullying members, which obviously has taken things too far, especially for a game like Genshin. This thread blew up, and had around 12,000 messages, and even made the Douban admin of the discussion close the thread and open up a new one so they could discuss it a bit more peacefully. After some time, the Scaramouche stands tried to shift the focus of what had happened.
Posed! Nee.
Who keeps saying that?
It was him. Let's get him, fellas.
And said things like, just scold Scaramouche instead, we weren't the ones that shit on your characters. And then they started deleting all of the insulting and hateful comments, hoping that people would just forget about everything that happened, so that they could
go to the Winchester, have a nice cold pint, and wait for all this to blow over.
But obviously this isn't how it works, and there were countless screenshots of what happened, and this incident has pretty much became the root of the fighting between Scaramouche and Xiao Stans, and a few other character mains too. And it is very worth noting that these character mains are just as bad, with one very notable incident which I talked about on one of my shorts, where some players during the April Fool's posts actually went out and killed cats that looked similar to Scaramouche's cat, with there actually being photographic evidence of this happening, which I obviously won't show in this video, and honestly these players just deserve to be locked up. But now we enter the second phase of this drama. Now we know about the whole battle going on between Scaramouche and Xiao fans, it's also important to note that the Genshin topic of Weibo, another Chinese social platform, was absolutely littered with insults, hateful messages, and more from both sides, which made a ton of people uncomfortable on the platform, as they weren't involved in any of this at all, with many of them reporting this to the Genshin topic admin. On the 13th of January, Hoyoverse released a Lantern Right Xiao preview, which relit the argument between Xiao and Scaramouche stans, with Xiao stans laughing and taunting the Scaramouche stans on the Weibo Genshin topic, as it seemed like their character was more cared for by Hoyoverse. And obviously this just provoked the Scaramouche stans to fight back and escalate it even further, which just filled the Weibo Genshin topic up with even more insulting content and messages, which obviously many of the normal Genshin Impact fans don't want to see. The following day, the 14th of January, the admins of the Genshin topic on Weibo opened up a new thread, in the hopes that they could just let the Xiao and Scar stands just argue between themselves in an enclosed thread, instead of disrupting all of these Genshin players that just want to get on with their normal lives. This decision by Weibo was well received by regular Genshin players, and was often a method they used for any kind of disagreement. During this whole incident, one guy who was a Xiao stand decided to make two sub-threads on Tiba, one for Xiao haters, and the other for Scaramouche haters, but they owned both of them, and this didn't turn out very good for them when they were exposed for not being a Xiao hater, which then caused the following incident. The Xiao stan who created these two threads announced that he was going to dox a member of the Xiao hater sub, which Scaramouche stans were furious that he would do something like this. And of course the Xiao stans were in full support of the crime that he was about to commit, and obviously this added even more fuel to the fire. On the 1st of February, the admins of Weibo announced they would open up a new thread for the Kave Chinese voice actor controversy, but the entirety of the comments of this thread were just regular players criticizing stans, and thanking the admins that they weren't just putting up with this kind of behavior. The thread was filled with a lot of questions, which the admins answered a few hours later, but some Scaramouche Stans started asking why the admin didn't intervene in any kind of other dramas, and why they didn't respond to the whole drama I talked about before, involving the Xiao stan that was going to dox people, and the fact that the admins were actually caught deleting a ton of the Scaramouche Stans comments on Weibo. But the admin replied with a pretty standard answer of that it was a tough decision to make. But this response became the straw that broke the camel's back, and the thread had become even larger than the one I talked about in the beginning, with it having over 22,000 comments, which is apparently one of the largest cyberbullying incidents that has ever happened in the Chinese Genshin community. This also changed the targets for the Scaramouche Stans too, with it going from this group of Scaramouche Stans arguing with the Xiao Stans, to now the Scaramouche Stans fighting with the admins, and even other players, with the Scaramains even claiming that there's an imposter. I mean, I can't take this seriously. An imposter? Like, anyways, that there's an imposter trying to defame the Scaramouche mains, and that the admins were allowing Xiao Stans to attack them. And even though the admins tried really hard to keep the whole discussion between Scaramouche and Xiao, the conversation would always turn back on them. And then came a massive flood of chaotic Scaramouche Stans from other sides, which continued to add tons of malicious memes, insults, and more to the threads. And it's worth noting that the admin that was replying to the questions earlier got heavily bullied in the thread, and left in the middle of the incident. And it's even stupider to think that both of the Stans claimed that they were innocent afterwards. This then created the rule that the Weibo admins were banning hating on other characters, which obviously calmed down the situation a ton. But there were many accounts from players that were involved in this, with some saying that the Xiao Stans started to curse cancer patients. Like, I don't even know where they got that from. And they were referring to Scaramouche with nicknames like Tumor, and saying things like if you were a friend of a Scaramain, you would get cancer, which is just stupidly childish. And obviously this is alongside a whole barrage of other hateful comments and doxing. But how is the situation now? Well, there's been a whole series of events since this whole saga, with some players even getting the Beijing Internet Discussion and Report Center involved, and pretty much alerted all of the Chinese cyber police to the situation, which they quickly removed all of the offensive and malicious images and messages that were displayed on Weibo and other sites. And as for Scaramouche, he's now widely hated in the community due to the actions of these extreme stans, with some creators even getting a flood of hate on videos or images that they created depicting Scaramouche as even good, just because it's Scaramouche. The most recent incident, however, was revealed by Scaramouche mains, about a Scaramouche hater who is using old war terms which again I can't mention in this video, to describe Scaramouche mains, with the term referring to women who were brought along by the Japanese army and were violated during wars. It can actually be a very insulting word to the Chinese. This user was actually confirmed to be banned by Hoyoverse. However, it did spark the use of this word for other Scaramouche haters. So that is the full story of these groups of extreme stans, who as you've seen are willing to do anything to get their point across. And honestly, I'm not taking any sides here, as it seems like both sides were just as bad as each other, and there's been a lot of misinformation in the Chinese media. But I must stress that although this incident was in China, this does not mean it was the whole Chinese Genshin community. And like, China is a very big country, so it's clearly a minute group of stans. And the same goes for any other kind of stans I've mentioned in this video. So please don't go attack people for absolutely no reason, as you'll just become part of the problem. But if you did enjoy this video and found it interesting, or even found it helpful when it comes to understanding the dark side of the Genshin community, then maybe consider leaving a like, and even subscribing if you want to see more videos like this in the future. That's all. See ya!